Yeah, I woke up today and the sun was shining, so I got some coffee and I decided to go sit here in this little outhouse. And I decided to record a video because I felt like it. I don't know. Just getting some thoughts out of my head, I guess. I'm rolled up some wake and bake zoof, so I'm smoking it. I don't know. I've been doing this for the last couple of days, just whenever the weather allows it, sitting here and staring out. There is some nice scenery on the other side of this room. Anyway. I'm not sure. I guess it's more motivating for my own thoughts to sit here than in my shed. Because the scenery of my shed has been kind of like this shell throughout at least December. So I guess I found some other scenery to ponder on. Because it's, what is the word? It doesn't stimulate. My shed doesn't stimulate my senses because I'm always, or my thoughts, because I'm always there. Stimulate your senses. It's a fucking mean. Because I'm always there, like, it's very much the flow of motion that keeps me there. And also, you know, the flow of the world. I quit my job prematurely this December as well, as I couldn't find any motivation. And a couple of days after that, a good amount of arguments in the family and just overall the winter stress, as we don't get a lot of light, so vitamin D is hard to get, or harder to get. And if we don't supplement ourselves, we get stressed easily, more easily as we are deficient. So the family's been dealing with stress. I guess I've been dealing with stress, although I've been trying to avoid it. December was pretty stressful, I guess, because of the quarantine we went in. As my family got COVID, my little sister was the first one, probably through school or friends. We don't know. Everybody in quarantine for 2 weeks, which then after like a week or two, I also tested positive. So at that point, it was mid-December somewhere, and I couldn't celebrate my birthday, which was on the 19th, because of the whole family being in lockdown. And then I did test negative again just before the end of the year, so I could have fun with a couple of buddies. That was nice. But other than that, I have been isolated, especially just isolated in thought, isolated in mind. I haven't been really able to speak to humans on another level than just efficiency level. Just, you know, to get through a day, you have to make conversations sometimes. Other conversations have been very lacking, and online is just a little bit different than face-to-face, or maybe a friend you put more trust in than an internet friend, because at the end of the day, what can an internet friend do when you're... I mean... you know, you're still alone behind your PC, yet you're so social and in a group. And I do believe that having friends online now can definitely increase your life. Of course it can. And your opportunity in later life, I guess. But it's different. It's different from a real friend. I shouldn't say a real friend. It's different from a friend you don't only speak online. Is the only difference, I guess. Because still, my friends online improve me mentally, improve my social relations, and the way I deal with them. Plus, all my friends are cool, man. There's so many cool people out there. And I also kind of regret then not meeting more people here, maybe. They always say that you better have a couple of friends than a lot of acquaintances. And I guess that's true for a couple of things, but one thing to speak a broader mind, one thing to just have my thoughts out there. They say sometimes that works better on a random person, as you have no real knock back. Like there's nothing that is going to change your life if you just rant to a random person about your thoughts. Kind of like how I'm ranting to a camera now. People who are going to listen to this will be in no position to influence my life, yet they can hear and see and experience a little bit of it through this. And somebody watching this, being a random person, will now have a broader knowledge of my life, but it doesn't improve theirs. Yet it helps me talking and getting my word out there. Which is a cool dynamic, I guess. Interesting that it exists in the world. I'm drinking my coffee with sugar and cream. Fellas, it might be the way. I don't even know where I'm gonna upload this, if I'm gonna upload it at all. I was thinking of doing a little bit on Twitter, but I'm sitting in a shed where my other brother, who I live with in the shed, practices his drums, so the drum kit is here, plus a couple of other instruments. My grandpa is still working on this shed. Or outhouse, kind of thing. It's another kind of aspect, I guess. I really feel for my grandparents in this time. They also had tested positive after a Christmas party they attended, which I have always had a stance of, I would love, and this I had in the beginning of the pandemic, like, okay, as we didn't know a lot about this virus and essentially we knew it was lethal, and we knew a lot of old people were very, very vulnerable. So I was afraid and cautious, of course, to visit my grandparents who live right next to me. They're my neighbors as well. We have the same property, I guess, and there's a couple of houses. It's kind of like this small commune. I didn't want to visit, but of course, over a period of almost, 2 years now, this must be 2 years at least, because COVID, started popping up in December 2019 here, January 2020. It was inevitable that at some point, one of the children just ran to the house and said hi to the grandparents. They hugged, and that didn't happen actually, so I eventually caught COVID from a completely different host, some Christmas party they went to, and yeah, that spawned a couple of bad things. My grandmother is not in perfect health, and my grandfather also got knocked out a couple of days. I think he's back on his feet now, but still feeling sickish. So he hasn't been able to do his things, which is really, his thing is to do things. He's been a woodworker for a lot of his life. He's built this outhouse, he's helped build the shed I live in, and he's also built a chapel that is right here on the property, the ground. It's interesting. It's limited my connection with my grandparents, the COVID. COVID has limited my connection with my grandparents. I regret it, and I think there could have been more I could have done, but then again, the way this situation hits my own personality is that I just shell. I hide. I think I have more than enough good reason to stay home, which is my comfort zone, and with less and less reason as more and more infections came about, to go out, to get out of my shed. Eventually I started living a pretty soulless life, filling it with Counter-Strike, which was very much the only thing. It was my daily rhythm for at least a couple of years. It was out of my internship at my IT study. I did a couple of months nothing, then I found a job at this family business, which the owner was a bully, also 60 years old, so I was very much wondering, with that much life experience, how you could be so mean to a 19-year-old at that time, trying to just work, I guess. I understand that it was also my mistake with the lack of motivation, especially when COVID hit. When COVID hit, I only had a couple of months left. I was starting to get so depressed, and with the full lockdown looming at that time, I quit that first job. And then my daily life became wake up, coffee, smoke weed, Counter-Strike. I did an hour of warm-up, then 4 hours of just games, usually 4 to 5 games in that span. Then, usually around then it would be dinner time. I'd get my dinner and then I'd do the same thing without the warm-up. 4 to 6 games probably, usually. If I was averaging 10 games a day, I was happy, I guess. That was a filled day. Then Mario also helped, but I wasn't motivated to play it, as I wasn't other games that I used to grind, like Rocket League. Counter-Strikes, for some reason, just really hooked to my brain. And I think it is one of the only consistent highlights of an otherwise very dark time for everybody. Being able to have a digital world next to a physical one, and then having the physical one fail in a very deep social way. I think that say in this world of bits that I'm holding the atoms of my joint right now in, had a knock like that on me while I was way more suicidal than I maybe was. I think that without the world of bits and my friends on the world of bits, the internet world, I think I might not have survived, and I think a lot of people wouldn't have survived this time were it not for the creation of this parallel world. that we can all link into, where a pandemic virtually exists, as in it's being talked about and it's kind of in the social meta, but if you want to, you can block that word from Twitter and you can play Counter-Strike. So I think that as a distraction, definitely not a solution, but a distraction to something that's happening that it looks like nobody has good grip on, especially in the early years. Nobody had good grip or any sort of foolproof plan. Really, the only good amount of plans started coming around when we saw the complete effects of that first wave, and we made the decision to go for the full lockdown approach in a lot of European countries. When the second wave was approaching. It's getting kind of cold here, so I'm shaking. But and then full lockdowns was, I don't know, I don't have no opinion. I have no opinion on it right now, as I feel like a lot of people have gotten out of it in a good way. But the narrative about lockdown regulations or a curfew or something like that, that narrative about it is shifting since I think, I don't know if it's just recency bias, but I feel like a lot of people are stopping to give a fuck. And maybe more in European countries. I see that in Asian countries, a lot of people do respect the decisions of their government a lot more, it feels like. It feels like the respect here is dropping a lot. But it might just be the effect of the approach governments took. I think that in some Asian countries like South Korea, where testing and tracing was one of the bigger methods, somehow you see it now in their statistics. Their numbers are low. Their faith and trust in the government that is installed is high, and they're cautious. They're still cautious, and that was my point. They're still being cautious, as here, where it might be a reaction to our approach to beating this virus with lockdowns and straight up segregation to people making the choice to be anti-vaccination, which I don't 100% understand, yet I do respect, because I had some colleagues that were anti-vax, and I spoke to them a lot about it, and their reasoning is sound in some places. Like my Hungarian friend who mentioned that lockdowns or any type of control over a population might be necessary in forms of like a police force to keep order, which a lot of countries still apply, which may not be the final solution, but that's like what's life. Then we're getting into the philosophy, which is not where we're gonna go on a rant video or a talking video. I don't know why I turned on the camera even. The thing is, reaction to the approach of the government, and my Hungarian friend mentioning that some form over a population or the control of the population is one of the key factors of how extremer forms of government could, some of the factors they apply, that some of the keys they apply to keep a government like that rolling. Which is what the Netherlands is also kind of leaning towards, and in my opinion, I guess, because these opinions are mine and very much subject to a lot of bias, internet bias, recency bias, I guess any other biases created in my mind by my environment, which has been very limited. So I've only really gotten opinions of my family members, which I know their positions politically, and I respect them, don't mind them. I'm a little bit different from only my parents in that sense. My brother is still very much unlocking his mind right now. He's 18, turning 19 this year. So it's fun to see him develop, especially when, you know, he's living with me. He's basically next to me or across from me every day. And it's cool. It's cool to see a young adult's mind develop, which gets me back to some of the more positive things on life. And some of the things that this pandemic has given me is, as I turned, I think my 20, the year that I was 20 years old, that whole year, my mind really shifted. The only thing I did was get out of this shed after 2 years of Counter-Strike and work again. Different work this time. So I had an IT degree, but I just decided to apply for a fucking production job in a factory. It was this toy factory, and one of the owners knew my uncle, so I got hired. Excuse me. Despite myself not being able to hold a job for half a year before this, and always having to be, or not having to be, always being too demotivated at the end of maybe like 4 months, that I was really counting my days until some form of maybe breakdown, because I cried a lot and I was depressed a lot during this time. But also just work stress plus a couple of other things that, you know, boohoo, first world country problems. People are dealing with starvation somewhere else, and I get that. I've changed my way of viewing things over these years, of course. I've started to understand more, and experience more, which sounds weird. But even the shed experience, just being home, is different. So I guess I've changed some framework of thinking, which really allows for more positive thinking in the end. Yeah, so almost at the end of my joint, so I'm probably gonna hang this up real quick. Oh, fucking soon. The sun is going down and it's getting cold here, so I'm gonna boot up Counter-Strike. Or maybe some Mario, I don't know. But yeah, it's strangely nice to do this. I woke up and I thought about making a video like this, just because I felt like I haven't been able to communicate to anything. So I'm just communicating to the world of bits, as is one of my only possibilities right now. I don't think a 25-minute video can go on Twitter. I guess I'll upload this to YouTube and post a link. I don't think it's strange. Well, what I'm thinking about is it strange to sit here as an individual and explain my own individual thoughts? Is it arrogant, maybe, or egotistical to do this and just explain my position? Is it maybe respectless to other people struggling, maybe having relevant feelings or feelings that can be shared in between my individual brain and this connection over the internet. But I guess if I see other people making videos like this, I would respect that. And I think if more people started making videos, not being able to talk to any individual, maybe because they will not relate to your mind, or you see things too differently to have a normal conversation, maybe a deeper conversation. Because normal conversation I don't see as so difficult. Deeper conversations I feel are getting more and more difficult, especially here in the Netherlands, where everybody is building such a thick social shell. I really only have deeper conversations with my brother, myself, and one or two friends. FG Falcon, my real best buddy, he can, I feel like I can drop anything there. He can always relate. Or at least give me a good peace of mind, you know, not some shell answer, like, oh, okay, or, damn, I hope you're alright. Which is nice to hear, but when I am having, when I'm at least trying to convey deeper meaning to the problems I'm having, or maybe the questions I'm trying to ask, then when somebody answers like a shell, like a robot, I'm not expecting that answer at that point, because I'm thinking that I'm more clear, maybe, in that I'm trying to have a deeper conversation. Then once maybe I go a little too abstract or too deep into one of these rants or strings of thought that I have, because I can string thought after thought after thought and only reach my point after 5 minutes. And people just decouple from the conversation. They hook off, and then their brain is gone and I'm talking to a face, which is giving me sensory input, not a deeper understanding. And I can't blame humans to do that, yet it feels very alone when there's only so little humans, so few humans that do connect at that moment. And I am also to blame here, because I also hook off and decouple myself from conversations I'm not trying to have. So what is the solution there? Is there a way we can maybe respectfully, without it being awkward, or without it being awkward, just saying to each other, hey, I don't know if we can have this conversation right now. Maybe you shouldn't upload this video. Maybe we should keep to ourselves. But I think that is inherently never going to reach a solution then. Because then we're probably, if we're saying we're not going to make it awkward, that is instantly an edge of awkwardness in any social interaction we're going to have in the future. Right? That one time we decided to not make it awkward is now going to set us back socially so much that we're probably, I know it's going to take like maybe 2 or 3 more conversations, say we just met, to start to relate maybe. Another way is maybe if we can just accept awkwardness and sit with it, which is something I think humans are learning how to forget, is how to sit with awkwardness. Because the thing is, when it gets awkward now, everybody just grabs their phones and it doesn't matter anymore. Nobody has the capability to sit with awkwardness. Just not having this dopamine machine in your pocket to feed you feelings while you sit across from one of your own species who is trying to do the same thing so you guys don't have to have awkward social interaction. That's crazy. That is so weird to me. Yet I feel it every day, or every time I'm having to try to socialize. There's always some human that instantly you kind of have this notion of, oh, okay, this guy has a different brain than me. Maybe conversation is going to be a little weird. Or I'm going to say things, or he's going to say things that we won't agree on. And you see how this train of thought can get you to awkwardness real quick. And then you're like, oh, fuck. What's happening on Twitter? Just get me out of this. Get me out of this situation. I can look at a screen. I can, instead of having my brain focus on all these anxiety-inducing thoughts, I can grab this dopamine machine, hook off, decouple myself from this conversation, and feel a little less bad in the moment. And nobody can sit with the awkwardness. And I've been trying just for fun, just to keep my phone in my pocket and look at everybody. Every time one of those moments happens, when I'm having a couple of beers with friends and everybody grabs their phones, it's sort of every time it's a hit or a realization like, damn, something has changed in all of these minds with the invention of a telephone and social and this world of bits. So we're adapting and changing to it rapidly as we're expanding our consciousnesses with it, as it offers such an enormous source of information. So, is this a good balance? Are we developing bad traits by having this second world run next to the one we've been living in for so long? The one we've started our existence on, and the one that we call real still. I don't know, but it's interesting. And it's definitely going to be interesting to see the generation that is now, I refer to my little sister and brother, who are both 7. That generation has seen mobile phones, and especially smartphones, their whole life. They've known it since the day they started having conscious thought, or started asking questions. It is interesting to see that generation function in an adult world, where all the kids of this generation have grown up, and with their basically inherent understanding, as they develop their brain, they get this deep understanding of how this world of bits works, as other maybe adults that were here, that when it was invented, don't have, as they have had to learn along with it when their brain was already adult, which it is known that we learn less and we learn more difficultly. We have a difficult time learning when we grow up, especially when our bodies aren't growing anymore and our cells slowly start deteriorating as we get older. This also includes our brain. So the people who have had to learn along with the development of the internet when they were already in their 40s or 50s, you can see that they have a hard time with it right now. All the quote-unquote boomers or very early silent generation are having a hard time understanding the broad range of the internet, which kids are basically growing up with and learning along with at a way more rapid pace. And So it's going to be interesting to see these kids who have been learning this integrated probably at a way deeper level to our world as compared to the people in power now who have not really had that capability, that collective mind to really put 100% of use to the internet as a concept. Yeah. And of course, basic, probably fundamental to the internet levels of knowledge are widely known, like the rapid exchange of information it allows. So this in science has always been nice, you know. With the invention of the internet, basically became, as soon as the network was developed, a proper global front in a lot of subjects, where information was shared so fast between all kinds of humans who were, you know, it was very much a place to dump thoughts, like I'm dumping thoughts right now. Say I was somebody thinking about a big problem, I was answering my questions and writing it down on an email, sending it around to members of the community across the globe, and figuring out solutions, which is human as fuck. Human as fuck, and an evolution in a very short range of time. So are we throwing off the balance with this new world of bits, or are we on the right track? Let's see what the future brings when we beat this crisis. It's gonna be interesting. Thanks for listening to me rant. I'll probably sit around here more often, but I have no clue if my thoughts are interesting. I don't care. I'm gonna upload this. It's been nice sitting here, smoking my first joint of the day and talking. Maybe I'll do it more often. Probably not based on your feedback. See ya.